people, stay dandy, baby. It's Christmas time in My Hero Academia, and that means that Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki are gonna stick their fists of some villain stockings. Hello my friends, and welcome to another review of the My Hero Academia anime series. Before we begin today, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. If you are liking my videos, make sure to give them a like, and of course, if you want to be super badass, make sure to check out my Patreon page, make a monthly donation. Remember, first-time donators, I'll review an anime series of your choosing. But let's go ahead and jump into this episode of My Hero Academia, a milestone episode for the series, because this just so happens to be the 100th episode of My Hero Academia, and whew, I can't believe it took this long to actually get here. But honestly, the quality of the series speaks for itself. That's been my favorite thing about My Hero Academia, is the fact that it is basically divided up into seasonal parts, which means the quality has always been pretty top-notch. And I think things are going to get even more exciting after this episode right here, because now that we got through that whole A and B class competition, we can move on to a story which I think is probably going to be more traditional than some of the bigger ones that we've seen in My Hero Academia. But this episode does take its time in actually building up to all of those big events. Really, this one is sort of like the aftermath of what happened after this big competition with Class A actually winning. We get to see that Deku is trying to learn how to use the Black Whip ability, which he still can't quite seem to manifest. He realizes that he's going to have to master his ability in order to actually use that. But I also really love the fact that they have this really cool conversation between him, Bakugo, and All Might, where they discuss that his abilities, the One for All, are actually becoming very similar to All for One. A lot of that being with the fact that he's able to utilize these multiple quirks, and it could mean something very dangerous for Deku in the future, but at the same time, it's not going to bring him down that much as he continues his hardcore training. One of the other things about this episode that I thought was remarkable was this whole scene where they had decided to bring back the character of Monoma Nato. And Monoma, of course, has the unique ability to copy quirks. So they thought a really good idea would be for him to actually copy Eri's quirk so that he could maybe find out some sort of secret to learn how it works, and maybe this way she could master her abilities to possibly help out Mirio. The problem is we get to learn that while he can copy other people's quirks, if it's an ability which utilizes energy or something that needs to be accumulated, he can't actually utilize those abilities. So Eri is still going to have to continue to train to use her very dangerous quirk, and I have a feeling that's going to be a very important part of the series as it actually goes on. But this is an important scene because, again, it does two things. One, Deku tells her to never give up on her abilities, and that allows her to continue to move forward and realize that she's going to have to train to get stronger so that she can help people and sort of like rein in the power of her quirk. And again, it also gives Deku the realization that he himself is going to have to work even harder to master his abilities if he's going to be manifesting all these brand new ones, which are going to be popping up much later in the series. We also have this really small moment, which I thought was really funny, where we got to see all the students were sort of like hanging out after the big competition and enjoying the weather and each other's company. And we get this really weird moment where, and I'm only bringing this up because it's just something I noticed and I'm like, what the hell is even going on here? Where it looks like Mina has taken Mineta, and she's giving him this whole clockwork orange treatment where he's sitting in a chair and his eyes are forcibly opened as he's looking at a TV which has material on it that we can't see, but the fact of the matter is he looks shocked. What the fuck is going on in this scene? I don't know. It's weird. I just wanted to bring it up. Really, though, this entire scene is mostly important because we have a nice little interaction between Deku and Shoto Todoroki. Shoto realizing that Deku also seems to have multiple quirks very similar to him. We also get to see the relationship between Shoto and his father is growing. Great scene of watching Endeavor choke out a villain while he's casually texting his son. It's exactly the type of thing that he would do, and it also just shows how stupid powerful he is. He can carry on a conversation while also kicking a villain's ass. And speaking of kicking villain ass, we have the final scene of the episode where we get the big confirmation that Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo have officially gotten their hero license. And not 30 minutes after getting it, they decide to go out into the streets and start taking down some villains. And luckily for them, it's Christmas time, which means a lot of villains are going to be trying to steal stuff from people. There's this one dude whose entire gang is going around the city riding around on waves. I thought he had some sort of weird water power. Apparently he can control carbonation. He's basically Soda Man, and he's going around the cities getting people's wallets, and that's when Shoto Todoroki and Katsuki Bakugo come in and do what they do best, which is just blow shit up, freeze it, and melt it. and they just dominate these guys. Of course, Katsuki Bakugo just wrecking all these guys with all of his abilities, and even better was watching Shoto Todoroki use an ability where he's able to combine the fire and ice together to take out Carbonation Man in one big awesome attack. They even take the time to introduce another brand new hero who looks so ridiculous. He goes by the name of Slide and Go, and his art style makes him look like something from an American cartoon. He's just got the most goofy, ridiculous expression ever. I'm not sure why they felt the need to introduce a weird random character at the end of this episode. He might become important later, but it's hard not to, notice this guy because of how ridiculous he is with his giant Joe Swanson freaking chin. It's just ridiculous, and it's a great introduction to him, but mostly the scene just shows how far Shoto and Katsuki have come in terms of their training and actually becoming heroes. It's a great moment for them, and it was a great way to end this episode, the big 100 of My Hero Academia. There is one final scene. It's a post-credit scene of watching them go back to the dorms and get a big surprise from all of their friends. And again, this is also not only sort of like, I think, a veiled celebration for them, but also just to show, congratulations, My Hero Academia has reached 100 episodes, and yet, in many ways, we're just getting started. So, what's the rundown on the latest episode of My Hero Academia? This was a really solid one. It wasn't as explosive and crazy as something that I would expect from episode 100, but again, it's based on a manga series, so you gotta get what you gotta get in terms of your adaptation. But I think there were some really solid and important moments from this episode of seeing some character growth and how far these characters are going to have to go in order to use their brand new abilities. Not only from Deku and Eri, but just seeing Shoto Todoroki and Katsuki Bakugo finally get their licenses and get out there in the world. And ultimately, the entire episode, again, was about the camaraderie and the teamwork of all of the characters. And honestly, that's one of the biggest themes of the entire series. I mean, even a small moment that didn't even really need to be in here, but between Kirishima and Tetsu, of just showing like them just bolstering each other's strength and just being manly and awesome. It's little small moments like that. And of course, Minoru staring at a scene in a Clockwork Orange style. Just so freaking weird. Even small details like the fact that it's really cold, so Suyu, being a frog girl, basically goes into extreme hibernation. It's these little tiny moments like that just flesh out this series in the most interesting ways possible. They're sprinkled throughout this entire episode, and it just works so perfectly. This episode honestly had everything. It had a continuation of story, it had some action, it had some funny moments, it had great character development. Really, as a full package, I think this was a great 100th episode of the series, and it's got me even more excited for what the future is going to hold next. So, I really loved this episode, even for some of the slower moments. For me, this was sort of a celebration of what the entire series is all about overall. There's not a giant, ridiculous, over-the-top, super well-animated, bombastic action scene, but it had everything else which makes My Hero Academia a strong series, and it's why I have to recommend this one. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. That's my thoughts on the episode. Yours may differ. Make sure to tell me what they are in the comment section below, what you thought about this episode, favorite moments, funny moments, action scenes, what you hope for the future of this season and this series. Let's talk all about it. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.